Well, God ain't gonna give me a man who doesn't make six figures, because God knows my heart and he knows what I desire and he gives me what my heart desires. That is not the truth.
Are you rejecting a husband God sent because he doesn't make six figures? Sis, this video is a wake up call. Let's talk about character over coin, fruit over flex.
Having a field day breaking up marriages and stopping relationships from forming into godly marriages, and y'all are just simply allowing him to do so. He's clever. Y'all know that. So, of course, he's going to showcase all of these high earning relationships, or the relationships that look perfect online, so that way the people who don't make six figures, especially the women, will end up forming these unrealistic expectations and rejecting the man that God has for them. Well, God ain't gonna give me a man who doesn't make six figures, because God knows my heart and he knows what I desire and he gives me what my heart desires. That is not the truth. The Bible does say that he'll give you the desires of your heart, but before that it says take delight in the Lord, seek what he wants. So at the end it does.
Hey, Kitty's speaking some facts here, though. Hope y'all got y'all notebook out.
Doesn't matter what you want. You gonna reject who God has for you? Another thing that just blows my mind is that the new standard for love is lifestyle. Here's a little bit of wisdom. Six figures does not equate to six fruit. Just because he makes six figures doesn't mean that he carries the fruit of the spirit, nor does it mean that his character will allow him to show up to be a godly man for a godly marriage. You keep on focusing on the network, you're gonna end up rejecting who God actually has for you. Some of y'all really be thinking that y'all can just control the outcome of everything, that y'all speak in a way in regards to the future as if you will have control of what happens 10 or 15 years. You can do everything that you can right now and God can change it. I have heard time and time again women say, I'm in my Ruth era. No, you're not, because Ruth didn't marry Boaz for money. She didn't marry him because he was rich. The question you need to ask is, do they produce what matters in a godly marriage? Rest the conversation. My God.
Facts. And what she's basically saying is in Galatians. We're going to take a look at that. Galatians. And what she's saying is, does this man have the elements of the fruit of the spirit? We're going to take a look at it, but that's in Galatians 5th chapter, 22nd verse. Look, Kitty is spot on. And I truly agree and believe that the enemy is distracting women with these luxurious looking relationships. And none of them are spiritually grounded. We're allowing Instagram, Twitter, YouTube to show us what a marriage is supposed to look like. And that clip that you see it is only a tenth of what goes on the rest of the day. You don't know what goes on behind that camera once that camera is turned off. All you see is the luxurious looking relationships. And probably more than half aren't even spiritually grounded, have no foundation. And it's sad because many women are equating love, like she said, with lifestyle. That's not love. Believing that if a man doesn't meet their financial checklist, that he's not God sent. Make that make sense. So he can check off every other box, but if he don't check that financial box, God didn't send him. You missing out on a lot. Let's take a look at some of these scripture verses here, because we got to get right. We have got to get right. So let's take a look at closely what she was talking about God and the desires of your heart. So in Psalm 37, the 4th verse, take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. God will give you the desires of your heart after you delight in him, meaning that his desires become yours because you have delighted in him. You have gotten a chance to know who he is. And I think we need to take heed to what comes before the desires of your heart. A lot of times we just take portions of scripture and we don't read the scriptures before, and a lot of times not even after. And so he's not going to give us those desires until we seek him. So let's be clear. He is going to give us the desires of our heart. But there's a caveat to that. We have to take delight in him. We have to seek him. And let's get into this, Ruth, because I love the story of Ruth, and it's very interesting because, and she's correct. Ruth wasn't in it for the money. Yes, Boaz had everything, the looks, the land, which equated to wealth. She married Boaz for who he was, not what he had. He just happened to have the rest of it. But she took her time. She took her time, and she knew what she wanted. And God gave her the desires of her heart because she sought out God. She delighted in God. God is not just going to drop some 6-figure man in your backyard. Godly marriages require fruit, not just funds. I love that. And for those of you who may not know, she's talking about the fruit of the Spirit, which we all need to strive for. And let's take a look at this fruit of the Spirit. And there's, I believe it's 9 elements of the fruit of the Spirit. So the fruit of the Spirit that she's talking about, the fruit of the Spirit, because it's one fruit, but many different elements of this one fruit, is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and this one's a hard one, self-control. Against such things, there is no law. So instead of being concerned about whether or not he has the funds, we need to be more concerned about, is he showing me love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, forbearance, faithfulness, gentleness? She's showing self-control. Not does he make 6 figures. A man can have wealth, yes, and he can still lack wisdom, still lack gentleness, and still lack self-control. That's not a husband. You are just waiting for a heartbreak to happen. Let's not idolize our desires to have a 6 figures, our desires to have this lifestyle. God gives us the desires of our heart when our heart is aligned with his will. If your heart is in culture and not Christ, that desire that you are looking for might be a distraction. Ladies, let's stop chasing lifestyle. Let's start seeking leadership. Look for a man who is submitted to God, not just successful by a man's standards, by your standards, by social media standards. Again, does this man possess the fruit of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, forbearance, patience. Is this man patient with you? Is this man kind and good to you? Is he faithful to you? Is he gentle? Does he have self control? Let that be the checklist, not the six figures. We don't need to confuse God's provision with our preferences. So we need to ask ourselves, does this man carry the fruit of the Spirit? Is his life surrendered to God, or is it just styled by Instagram? Think about it. If the money went away tomorrow, would you still feel covered? Would you still feel protected? If all that money went away, where would you be? How would you feel about this man? So, one thing I want y'all to do, create a checklist of spiritual fruit, checklist of the spiritual fruit, and evaluate the man based on that, and not just his income or his Instagram worthy lifestyle. Create that checklist. Again, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. Desires are not demands, and standards without spiritual discernment can become strongholds. You can definitely be in your Ruth era and you can still miss your Boaz because you are too busy looking for a baller. Fruit over flex. Fruit over flex. Obedience over aesthetics. Purpose over paychecks. I need to create some t-shirts, y'all. Let me know in the comments if you want a t-shirt. Real talk. In the chat, y'all, have you ever rejected someone because they did not meet your lifestyle standard? They may have had a great character, but they just didn't quite meet the six figures. They didn't quite meet, my travel bay standard requirement. Real talk. Have you ever rejected someone like that? Let's talk about it. Remember, sis, God is not preparing you for luxury. He is preparing you for legacy. Let's stay focused.